It was another day of incredibly mixed messaging from the Trump administration. The tension at the briefing was obvious and painful to watch as the president tried to downplay the concerns of a second wave of the coronavirus in the fall. President Trump made several claims during yesterday's press briefing that were immediately refuted by doctors around him. He tried to coax them several times into saying the virus may not return. In another instant, the president claimed the Washington Post misquoted the CDC director. This was at the beginning. He forced the CDC director to get up on stage to the podium and refute himself, even though he couldn't. It was incredible, and you have to think about the screaming and the arguing that must have happened during the day leading up to that moment, with the president ordering the head of the CDC to try and change what he said to the Washington Post, even though he believes what he said to the Washington Post was true.
To give bad medical advice, and this is how it played out. Watch this.
Dr. Robert Redfield was totally misquoted in the media on a statement about the fall season and the virus. Totally misquoted.
You were accurately quoted, correct?
I'm accurately quoted in the Washington Post.
What Dr. Redfield clearly was asking for, just like we ask for every American to follow the guidelines, he's saying, please add to that guidelines getting your flu shot and making sure you're protected.
There's a good chance that COVID will not come back.
We don't know.
If it comes back, it's in a very small confined area that we put out.
Well, the great thing is we'll be able to find it earlier this time.
That might not come back at all, Jeff. It may not come back at all. He's talking about a worst-case scenario where you have a big flu and you have some corona. But it's all possible. It's also possible it doesn't come back at all.
We will have coronavirus in the fall. I am convinced of that. There will be coronavirus in the fall.
I mean,
Whoa.
Just unbelievable. I cannot wrap my arms around the fact that you have networks that screwed up months ago, saying this was going to be a hoax. And then they screwed up, like pushing false drugs. And now they're screwing up, saying this might magically go away. And you've got a president who said this is going to magically go away. We only have 15 people. It's down to 0. Like, Willie, when do these people learn? Like, Donald Trump's gut was, this is going to magically go away in February. This is going to magically go away. We've got 15 cases going to go down to 0. In April, it's going to magically go away. We're going to have, probably by the end of next week, more people dead from COVID-19 than died in the entire Vietnam tragedy. In the entire Vietnam War, more Americans dead from COVID-19. This thing that he said would magically go away in April. Then we have the president magically say this drug. Oh, no, I know nothing about this drug. Right. But my gut just tells me, just like his gut told him it would magically go away, my gut just tells me that this drug is going to do great. No, we find out it killed vets. Find out that actually it's not working. We find out that he actually fired somebody because they wouldn't promote it, because he wouldn't promote it in a way that Dr. Fauci said from the beginning, hey, we got to do clinical trials. We don't know if this is going to kill people or whether it's going to, but he had a gut feeling. He was wrong. His gut feeling now is that it's not going to come back in the fall. When in fact, as we've said here for some time, as I tweeted yesterday, even before I knew what was going to be happening in the press conference yesterday, the flu pandemic of 1918 was actually stronger in the fall. I think we said that yesterday on this show, was stronger in the fall. Like, the real tragedy came over 3 months in the fall and the winter because it came when it was flu season. That's what everybody's been warning about for months. I had a guy that doesn't even know about medicine warning me about this 2 months ago. I had Zeke Emanuel saying, hey, it's going to be worse in the fall, Joe. He said that back like in February. This is not breaking news. How could the president not learn from his mistakes and still ignore his doctors when every medical person will tell you the pandemic could be the worst The worst during flu season. Why am I getting so riled up? Because the president wasn't prepared before, right? The president was told in January by everybody in his administration that this was coming. Even Navarro warned him 500,000 people could die. The president ignored it. He didn't prepare. 50,000 people are dead now because of it, right? Mm-hmm. He didn't prepare. There should have been a lot less people dead. Most scientists will tell you, I'm sure, when this is all over, that if we had prepared better, if the Chinese had not lied through their teeth, those two things taken together would have saved a lot of lives. But here's my deal, okay? This is not looking backwards. This is looking forward. We have to prepare for the fall. I've got children. I want to go to school in the fall. I got Mika's mother. I want her to be able to resume a normal life in the fall.
Kids in college.
I want the White House to prepare for the fall. They can't do it if Donald Trump is still acting like this is February, where he says it's 15 people and going to magically go away. This is another tragedy. This is another disaster, just like the news work that never learns. They never learn. 50,000 Americans dead. I know it's early in the morning. I'm sorry. Believe it or not, I was asleep just 15 minutes ago.
Yes, he was.
But this is jolting, Willie. 50,000 people. I was asleep 15 minutes ago.
So
0 to 60, my friends.
I'm up
but
for 2 hours.
50,000 people dead. And they were making these miscalculations just a month ago. They're still doing it. When will they ever learn? When will they ever learn?
And by the way, Dr. Fauci has been saying this not just in secret to the president, out loud in public in interviews for months, that this is going to come back in the fall. It was something that those of us who were just learning, most of us in the country, about infectious disease at this scale didn't realize that, yes, he said it likely will come back in the fall. And what you had yesterday was the director of the CDC quoted accurately in the Washington Post saying the winter's going to be bad, too. We're going to have the combination of coronavirus and the flu. President puts out a tweet yesterday morning, says that the CDC director was terribly misquoted by CNN, he said. It was actually the Washington Post. He will be putting out a statement. Well, Dr. Redfield did put out a statement yesterday at the hearing with at the briefing with him, the president standing at his side, saying, I was quoted accurately by the Washington Post. So there you have it. I mean, Jonathan Lemire, that was he retweeted it, right. That was an extraordinary Jonathan Lemire clip that we just played, showing the journey of the president trying to coax in public, in front of television cameras, his own doctors into coming to his gut feeling, or his wishful thinking, let's put it that way, that this will not come back in the fall. And the doctor after doctor after doctor, 3 of them on that stage yesterday in the White House briefing room said, no. First of all, Dr. Birx said, we don't know. Then Dr. Redfield said, I was quoted accurately, saying the winter is going to be bad. And then ultimately, Dr. Fauci came out and just said, no, Mr. President, no, American public. This will be back in the fall. And that's why it's so critical that we prepare now.
Willie, it's exactly right. Every medical expert on that stage yesterday broke with the president, and some more subtly than others. This is not a secret. This is not news. This virus will be back in the fall. That's what everyone has been preparing for. That's what they've been warning the public about for weeks and months. The point Dr. Fauci was trying to make is that it's not a question of whether the virus will be back. It's a question of how we prepare for it. Will we have, better methods in place? Will we have better treatments for those to catch COVID-19? There won't be a vaccine yet, but there could be ways to mitigate the spread. But it's going to be here. And the point that the CDC director made the day before in the Washington Post, which then CNN and others did coverage of, that's what the president saw, was the idea that when it's combined with the flu season, and last year's was particularly bad, it's going to put a further strain on the medical resources of this country. So yes, in many ways, things could be much more worse this fall, and the president simply didn't want to hear it. According to our reporting, he was in a seethe all day yesterday after the report, because it flies in the face of this relentlessly rosy picture he's trying to paint, particularly in the last few weeks, as he's trying to get the economy going again and encouraging states to start slowly reopening. Now, he did have some words yesterday where he urged the Georgia governor to slow down in some measures, to not perhaps have the tattoo parlors and hair salons open, but he wants the economy to get going. This is not a surprise either. And by doing what he did yesterday, by publicly contradicting the health experts, not only is that politically perilous, it's a precarious prediction to make, before for a president who's going to be facing voters again this fall, voters who are going to see whether or not the virus comes back. But more than that, it's irresponsible and could be giving Americans a false sense of security that they could resume their normal lives this fall and not get sick when the virus could be back and back with a vengeance.
But see, we have a series of polls that show Americans are onto the president. What concerns me is when he does what he does yesterday, that further rattles the markets, that further rattles business owners, small business owners, who understand he's lying. He's just making things up, and they're sitting there going, my God, I got to have a president that is going to be responsible, who knows what he's doing, who will let the scientists and the doctors and the experts move this country forward, take care of the health crisis so I can get back to work, so I can reopen my small business. Because, Mika, here's the deal.
Yeah.
We got a series of polls that are now confirming exactly what we all were saying last week, and that is that the president's press conferences are hurting him. The president darting around left and right, hurting him. The president on April the 13th saying, I have total authority. Then on April 15th saying, oh, never mind, you guys have the total authority. Then on April 17th going, open up your states. Then yesterday on April the 22nd saying, wait, no, don't open your states. Actually, Georgia, you're doing it the wrong way. It freaks the governors out. It freaks the markets out. It freaks CEOs out. And, Mika, let's go through these polls. It's freaking the voters out. They've stopped listening, Donald. Your 2-hour press conference. It's called the law of diminishing returns. Now, I read Sports Illustrated in the back of my Econ 101 class at the University of Alabama, but I did learn about the law of diminishing returns. You should look it up, because your 2-hour press conferences are now not only beyond that curve of diminishing returns, you're damaging yourself, and you're making it less likely that people are going to be able to get to work earlier. You need to stop. I've said it for weeks. Look at these poll numbers. You'll see I'm right again.
Well, it's not just his credibility, it's he's causing pain. For people who know someone who's suffering or know someone on the front lines or aren't working, they're hurting. They are people who are hurting, who are extremely emotional right now. And to see a leader refuting himself in real time about whether or not it's going to come back in the fall, about whether or not this thing is real or if it's going to go away, it's unbelievable. For people who need information and are desperate on the way forward, they're getting nothing.
Well, except for liberate these states. Americans aren't listening. Donald, they know that those are fringe protests. Thanks for checking out MSNBC on YouTube, and make sure you subscribe to stay up to date on the day's biggest stories. And you can click on any of the videos around us to watch more from Morning Joe and MSNBC. Thanks so much for watching.